All right, well, we'll get started then. Thanks for coming into the podcast today, guys. It's good to see you.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're a real estate investor. So where did that start, and what made you want to get into real estate in the first place?
I was thinking maybe Johnni could start, kind of tell her backstory, and then I can tell mine after that.
Sure. So I went to Michigan State, got an engineering degree, and when I graduated, I became a real estate agent because that's what you do with engineering degrees. But nobody had ever pointed me in that direction before until after I graduated. So I bought my first house soon after that, and I just thought that seemed really cool. So way back when, started buying properties. I went in with my parents, and we were flipping for the first couple. And because back then you kind of had an inside if you were in the MLS. It wasn't like nowadays where you could have access to all the deals at your fingertips on the internet. And so then we started. I'm like, well, we can do that. Let's start trying to burr before we knew what that was to rent them after we fixed them up. So we started doing that, and we did quite a few until 2008. We were way over leveraged, and because everybody was handing out 100% loans for the deals, 100% for the financing, it was just so easy.
Yeah.
Oh boy, wouldn't that be fun again? Then we pretty much lost everything and just held on to 2 properties, thank God, and that were still working well for us.
Technically, kind of 3, counting the house.
My own personal,
Yeah.
yeah. And then my own personal property was paid free and clear, which was a good too. And my parents was paid free and clear. So, but 2 rental properties we held on to for, goodness, over a decade. And when COVID happened and all the the values, the properties went up. And Nate and I had just been married a year or so and we had talked when we first got married. We didn't really have a retirement plan. And so I had always said, I'm like, I want to play Monopoly. I want to sell these properties and go get an apartment building. So it just made sense when the prices went up. We're like, wow, they're really worth a lot more than we thought, and we don't owe that much on them. So we did. So back in about 2022, we sold those 2 properties and ended up buying a 14-unit apartment building in Jackson. So that was kind of our first thing. We had tried to do a 1031, but thought had done our homework. Didn't realize if, in hindsight, if anybody's ever trying to do a 1031, identify the property you want to go into next before closing on the other properties. Because you only have 45 days, and that window is very tight, especially for apartment buildings when you don't realize there's just not a lot, of options, that meet your criteria. So we missed the one we missed by about a month. So we ended up going with it. We had one on our list, so you put 3 on your 1031 list. We did have one on our list that was still a possibility. We just couldn't get them to commit. It was a 12-unit here in Lansing.
Okay.
And so we're like...
Couldn't get the seller to commit?
Right.
Okay.
It was an old gentleman who they said had dementia. His children wanted to sell the properties, but it was still his choice, and they couldn't get him to... Yeah. So... we had to make a decision. That was about April of 23, or March, I think it was. And do we take this for sure deal in Jackson, or do we hold out, like not let that deal go and still try to get this 12-unit that we don't even have a contract on and see if we can get it done in the time frame? So we made the decision to go with the 14-unit. So, and it's I mean, despite losing the 1031, it's been a really good deal for us. So.
Well, so let's back up a little bit. So you were buying them and doing the burr strategy. You said you were buy them, fix them. Would you rent them and refinance them then? Or
Yes.
Okay. And then how did you get your funds for the first couple? You said your family jumped in and helped with some of the initial...
Well, you could get loans.
Okay.
I mean, my parents both had good, stable jobs, so they could get a loan for anything. And back then, there wasn't a limit on how many loans you could get. So I think my dad got up to like 15 houses in his name before they passed the law that you only can now have 10.
Yeah.
And then, so then my mom actually got the next 10.
Okay.
So we still kept going. We just had to find other people to get the loans, but they were still 100%. You didn't have to come up with any money.
Okay. Well, yeah.
And the rehab was
Wild West.
100%, and the refinance, everything was 100%.
Yeah.
We never came up with any of our
I guess
funds.
you could negatively amortize a loan back then. That if the 30-year payment was $1,000, you said I can only afford $500. They say we'll give you 500?
Oh, goodness.
And then,
We didn't do
so
that.
you just owe more each month.
Yeah, I
It's
can't
crazy.
imagine.
So,
That's crazy.
yeah, like, no wonder things collapse. But
yeah.
so you went over that hump of 2008. You held on to a few properties, and then just took 10 years off,
Pretty much.
and then looked up one day and said, "All right, we have a ton of equity in these properties. Let's refinance them." Sound like you maybe
Sold.
refinanced some. You sold.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, we sold both of those properties.
Okay. So did you sell two when you decided to jump into apartments? Why not do another single family or a duplex or something?
I just always had my heart set on apartment building. I used to do all the property management for the single family homes. We had about up to around 35 at one time, all over Lansing. But that was also back when we didn't have the software, like the programs now to do it. It was all snail mail. I mean, you had, collect in person. I mean, it was a lot of, I don't know, it was a lot different.
Yeah.
But I remember not enjoying that. Going all over, I was like, oh, if only all these were all in one building, So I kind of just had my heart set on that to do just one big building. I don't know. So that's what we ended up choosing.
So you said, all right, we're going to buy a big building, and we have these two properties. Let's list these for sale, and then try to find something. And then so the 1031 just didn't work out because of the timing on the sale of the first ones and identifying the second ones. Is that what happened?
Yeah, we sold those two houses within, I think, about a week of each other.
Okay.
That worked out really well. And so, because they said you had 45 days from the first one that closed, but we could use them together. And so, so then we started shopping. And again, like I said, if in hindsight, we should have started shopping sooner. So we did identify a couple of properties, but none of them worked out, basically.
We're basically looking at any multi-unit we could find that had any interest in it, and we go look at it, make an offer on it. So
But there was still, it had started to be the bidding wars and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was shocked that we got the 14 unit because we just were like, I saw it come out immediately on realtor.com, and I was like, told our agent, make an offer, full price offer today. And we were just like, again, we had done that many times, but that was on a Friday, and we're like, there's probably no way we're going to get this, And I think they came back almost immediately, like on Saturday, and was like, done.
No.
They
Did you
accepted
tour
our
it
offer.
before you put in that
No.
offer? Okay.
No, we hadn't seen it yet.
Which one?
The offer on the Jackson building.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah, I think we looked
hadn't
at it
seen it
later.
yet. Yep.
So were you offering on everything? Were you running the numbers behind the scenes
Oh, yeah.
and all that?
Oh, we ran the numbers as best you can based on what they give you. So,
We were being pretty aggressive making offers because we knew we could always back out, and we were trying to get 3 properties on a list.
Yeah.
That was
we were looking as far away as Toledo.
Yeah, all the way down to Toledo,
I'm glad
Ohio.
we didn't end up there.
Were you driving around touring buildings
yeah.
all
Yes.
along? Okay.
We drove to Toledo and looked at buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so you sold your houses, and that kind of probably gave you, okay, we're going to get X amount, so this is what we can afford based off of how much we have. Did you explore any creative options with sellers or put in any creative?
No, we didn't really. This was before we kind of knew much about any of that. We were pretty much on our own. Didn't have any other realtor or real estate investor friends or relationships yet. It wasn't until, I don't even remember, about a year or so in that we started coming to the Tony M's group first, and then the RPOAMM group, and started. Actually, we're like, we probably should learn what we're doing. We kind of did it backwards. We just kind of dove in, and then we're like, back up. Then we started listening to like Bigger Pockets and other podcasts and reading books, but we did it backwards for sure. We got lucky with the 14 unit that we ended up as good as we did because we kind of went in really not knowing a whole lot.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I want to jump into my backstory. We kind of rolled in way quicker.
Yeah.
And I thought we were going to start with how we got started, but so I'll just it's a short story, but I'm a high school dropout. I went through 10th grade and was washing dishes and knew that I needed something better in life. So, I didn't know what to do, but a neighbor of mine had a cool Jeep and a Mustang, and I asked him what he did for a living. And he said he was one of those kids that was a couple of years older than that we kind of looked up to in our neighborhood, but he did heating and cooling.
Okay.
So, and I was like, did you go to college for that? And he says, well, yeah, I did, but you don't need to. You can go find places that will hire you. So, I called around and begged for a job back in 1998, and was able to get hired at a local contractor here in Lansing, and that kind of started my construction career. And so I've primarily done construction since 1999, and in that, back in the same time period as my wife was talking about earlier, you know, fix and flip shows were on TV, and I was like, okay, I got to get into this. I like the idea of it. And then in my previous marriage, we went and bought a house, and we bought it for like $78,000. And then over the course of, I knew I was just going to do a traditional 2-year flip on the first house, and so that's exactly what we did. Just over the course of 2 years, lived in it, and then we did flip it for a pretty good profit. In that we had a lot of marriage debt that we paid off, and so the plan was to go get another one, but ended up divorced shortly thereafter. So, but it was always something I wanted to get back to, and then some of it I can tell you. You know, some of the important reasons why I wanted to come on here and talk today is some of the things that the lack of information, of not knowing steps and what to do and how to do them, is what kind of keeps people held back in life. It's like, how do I get in this? How do I do that? Had I started attending real estate investing meetings like yours years ago, I could have found out there's all these other ways and all these other people that you can leverage money and time and information from to help kind of get you there. And that we didn't know. Even at the time, my wife, after now I've met my wife, you know, back in 2018. And when we were dating, that was something she talked about, that playing Monopoly and doing it. And I knew, hey, if we do this, we'll be a good team because I have a lot of construction experience. She's got the real estate background and flipping background. That this is something that we could really do well at. And so that was exciting. It's fun to have a dream with somebody. And then when we got started after the failed 1031 and bought the 14 unit, my wife's like, I want to find like some local investor meetings to go to and stuff. I was like, well, I do follow a couple of them on there. I periodically was already following yours and the RPO AMM. And I was like, here's a couple of them that I have on my Facebook feed. You know, I don't know when they do all their meetings, but I know they'd have them. And so she had kind of looked those up on her Facebook and jumped on it and started attending. And then I come when I can. So if I'm not working or busy, but so that's kind of my general background and where we kind of met in the middle. So I had one flipper house ever before I met Johnny, and then now we're kind of where we are now. So
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no perfect time to jump into it, you know, and so it's kind of cool that you already were leaning towards doing something. You just didn't know what, and then when you wanted to jump in, you knew where to look, you know. So you got the offer accepted on the 14 unit, and was it turnkey, ready to go, or did it need repairs, or was it vacant? Or tell us about that building and why you chose that one.
So it's almost a 100-year-old building. Beautiful. It's got a lot of charm, a lot of original woodwork.
Common areas with terrazzo flooring.
It's beautiful. It's really pretty. So it's just been neglected. It just needed a lot of TLC and love. When we can refurbish stuff, we do. There's a lot of the original kitchens we try to refurbish. But if not, I mean, we just put in new ones. We've refurbished like all the hardwood floors. So we've done 8 now of the 14 units. Okay. So we're just slowly as they turn, and then but boy, the rents. When we got it, the rents even, this was in 23 or 22, May of 22. These 2 bedrooms, they were renting for $550, $600.
Typical of an older owner.
Including, that included all utilities but electric. And so, and rents had started really going up. And so now the finished ones we do still, we rent for around $950. We maybe could get more, but we're not trying to. There's still, it is an old building, so there's like no air conditioning. People would have to put in their own units. There's no parking except for a 4-car garage in the basement. It's street parking.
Garage in the basement, like parking
in the
under
lowest
building?
in the lowest level. It's like so there's 2 units in the lowest level, a laundry room, and then a 4-car garage.
Do you charge for the garage parking?
Yeah. The 4 spots are like $50 a piece, and then there's 4 units on each floor. So.
We have a little issue in our alleyway with the inspector. He didn't want, there's like an old cistern style thing underneath the driveway that it looks a little sketchy underneath. Yeah. And so the inspector says, you can't drive down the driveway anymore. So then my wife even took, and it's like, we're going to turn that into a parking space. And so she
And
rents
charge
that
for
for
that too, yeah.
$25 for that one alley parking space. And, but that we're kind of fortunate because the neighbor had a roofer doing some roofing repair, and he was smoking a cigarette and threw his cigarette out, went to lunch,
Okay.
and he came back and the house was on fire.
When he was working on?
Yeah, right
Yeah,
next
right
door,
next door
right
to the
next door to the
building.
apartment building, and that house burnt down. The city come and leveled it, and then it became empty. So we asked around, and we eventually found the person that owned it. So we were able to buy, and it's actually a lot and a half next door. So now the property makes an L shape for hopefully a future parking lot there,
Nice.
But there's a lot of pushback with the city of Jackson.
permitting and engineering and
Everything they
planning.
want done, it has to be done their way, and it costs like, I don't even know, 4 times, 10 times what we could do
You
it
can't
for.
just park on the grass? No.
They won't let us put a
You
stone
can't
down.
even
It has
put
to be
gravel or anything, you can't even park
has to
on
be
that.
blacktop or
Yeah.
concrete.
Yep. And it has to have an engineer, and it has to tie into the city sewer. I mean, there was this whole list, and we're like, well, guess we're not doing that anytime soon.
It does show a little double standards in your city when they say, like, we've looked at potential window updates. It's got the old metal casement windows, and they want everything original. So you got to replace a metal window with a metal window,
Oh.
right? So,
It's historical. building.
and it's got to have that same kind of appeal to it as the old, gridded casement window. And so they're like, oh yeah, it's a historic property. I need to do that. But then it's like, well, I don't think historic properties have concrete driveways.
Right. So looking
So-
back, would you not have bought it because it's a historical building, or is that just
No,
cause your creativity to flow a little more?
I think we still would have gotten it. The only issue has been like, somebody said they did a quote to do the windows like that, and it was gonna be like $1 million or something. We're like, well, I guess we don't do the windows. That's kind of what it's been. It's been like we had all these grand ideas. Oh, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, and we haven't been able to do a lot of those things.
We thought about like when we
We
remodeled.
wanted to upgrade the electrical, and to upgrade the electrical again was, it was. So we've done all the things we could do that were within our budget. The building pays for its own rehab. So
Fully. And I think we were kind of thinking about changing out and putting new, brown vinyl gridded windows in as we were doing the remodels in each unit one at a time. Because we kind of wait till somebody moves out and then we remodel, right? And now it's good for several years, But that's been the hindrance. They're like, no, if you do them, you have to do them all together. Right, and then they have to be very specific kind of materials, and they're very expensive, and
so we've done what we can do.
I
But
love the historic building. It's just, and we didn't know it was a historic building.
Yeah.
In Jackson, it works a little different for anybody looking to invest in Jackson. Is you aren't necessarily going to know that it's labeled a historic building. Like a lot of buildings in Lansing, they have a historic district, so your house could be part of the historic district without you even. So they list in if you go, I don't remember the name of the website, but they have a website, and you go through it and it lists all the addresses that are part of the historic district.
Okay.
And,
So it was on a list somewhere?
it was on a list somewhere. Works a little different down there. And they did rezone the extra lot for us to accommodate the parking lot. They loved the idea of it, but there's just a lot of pushback on what materials you can do it with, which pushes up the cost. Where we kind of thought, hey, we'll put some crushed asphalt down, wait a couple years, save some more money, and then pave over it, that kind of thing. And so it's kind of like do it all and do it expensive, or don't do it at all. And so that's where the holdup's been on some of the additions. But the units that we've remodeled were polyurethane staining, the old original hardwood
and it
floors.
was full when we got it.
Okay.
So
was there
it's been full. It's always full.
Horror stories or crazy tenants or anything? Because walking into 14 units, the average person's going to say, "What? That's a lot of risk." Walking into it. So walking in, was there any surprises or anything?
No, honestly,
really.
they all turned out really well. And in fact, this year was our first eviction in 3 years. So most people just moved out on their own. We only have 3 original tenants left.
Okay. Did you boost their rent up from the 500 they were getting originally?
Yeah, we've gone up slowly. They're still the lowest rents in the building, of course, but
Yeah, you got to weigh the vacancy versus because you might do a spreadsheet and underwrite saying, oh, I can get $1,000 per unit, but if it takes you 6 months to get $1,000,
Yeah.
you got to weigh, is it worth the lost rent just to get a boost in?
Yeah, they're all up in the 700s, almost to 800 now.
Okay.
So it's going up over
Yeah.
every year, but it's
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is it about, because we're doing the work on the remodels ourselves, and then sometimes we'll hire the handyman or pay our kids. So I don't know about the labor specific, but I think the materials aren't they running about 3,000 per unit?
on
Is that about
average.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But is that for a total renovation, cabinets and flooring and everything, or
It
is
just
that?
depends on what needs to be done.
And there may be
But yeah.
$500 in labor between our kids and our handyman and all that kind of stuff. So
But since flooring is it's just refinishing the hardware,
that's
that doesn't
beautiful.
cost
Yeah.
much.
we rent a
If
sander.
we can refurbish the kitchen, it keeps the cost down too. Yeah, so we usually put new vanities in the bathroom. We have been, he can do the ceramic tiles, so we've been doing ceramic tile tub surrounds and mosaic tile backsplashes in the kitchen, just adding a little bit extra, making it look nice.
Yep.
Yeah, what other tips and tricks do you have when renovating a unit like that? Do you do ceramic because you know how to do it, or because it's durable, or because it's fancier?
Well, the ceramic tiles and the tub surrounds actually, thank God he can do it, but it's almost a necessity because there's windows
In the
in the
shower.
shower,
Yeah.
and they're not in the center, they're to the one side, and to try to find tub surrounds that will accommodate that.
And you can't eliminate the window because of the historic
No,
thing,
there's
right?
no bath fan either in the bathroom, so you have to have a
So
window.
yeah, the ceramic tile is the best option
Yeah.
because you can custom it around that. Because we're like, what do we do with this?
I love a window in the shower.
Just self-taught, obviously. If people aren't and other investors aren't utilizing YouTube, right, and
Yeah,
a
of
skill
course.
set to be ambitious to try. I look back, if I go back in and probably showed somebody the first unit that I tiled, which I did learn my lesson on. If you got inconsistent walls, like they're lumpy and
building.
not straight, do not go with a 1 foot by 2 foot tile.
Oh yeah.
It's just too much to float. And
We
so
found that the
everything,
1x1s are the best
we've
option.
had the best luck with, 1 foot by 1 foot tiles or smaller. We've done some smaller ones, but we
The least amount of work for the best.
primarily try to stick with the 1 foot by 1 foot tile. And but just self-taught on it, and we rented a tile saw, and I've done a couple little
we
tile
bought one.
jobs in the past. Like for instance, my boss, one of my old bosses has a whole fireplace display, and he says, "Hey Nate, do you think you could do some tile?" And we weren't really busy with installs at the time, so he's trying to keep me working, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's rent a tile saw." And I watched a couple of YouTube videos, and I kind of learned in a showroom, and then helped do a couple backsplash jobs. But take the ambition to do it. We went and ended up buying our own tile saw because the cost to rent, you just keep adding that up. We're like, we got all these units to do, and so
Yeah, we use it a lot.
Harbor Freight is great for buying something like that. If I had to do tile every day, maybe not the best, but we've had really great luck with Harbor Freight stuff when we're doing 5, 6, 10 projects a year or whatever. It's not bad. So, but yeah, for the most part, I know so much about construction. It's nothing that here's another tool to go in my toolbox and a little video. I got this.
So
you get better as you go.
How do you handle maintenance since it's an hour away from here? Jackson is about an hour away from Lansing. If something comes up, are you finding that you have to drive out there all the time, or do you have a maintenance guy there, or how do you?
Honestly, for an old building, it's very seldom, very low maintenance. We've only had maybe 3 or 4, I guess, emergency calls. If you want to. And fortunately, our handyman Jack is in Leslie, so he's a bit closer. So we have him as an option if Nate can't get there. We also have a gentleman on site who I discount his rent just a little bit every month just to be there for quick emergencies. Like there was a spill in the common area. Can you please go clean it up? Somebody left it. One time I had to have him remove a bat out of the common area. Things like that. So having those.
He does a little salting and shoveling for us too.
Yep, I do. He does that. So just kind of having those people in place. It was hilarious because we always wanted to have those people in place, but literally 2 days after we closed on the building, it was one of our one and only horror stories, or where it was a crazy emergency. We get a call Saturday evening. We're having a barbecue on the back porch. there's water pouring into one of the units from above. And we're like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
So I'm
That's
trying
a
to
bad
reach
call
the
to get.
tenant
Yep.
who lives up there, and they're not answering, and we didn't have anything in place yet, obviously. So none of these things now. So he had to just drive that way, and I kept frantically trying to reach the tenant, whatever. What happened was the kids had left the faucet running a little bit and like a washcloth in the sink, and so it was just running over the sink.
And then they weren't home. Is that?
Yeah, they weren't home. They had left, and she's like, I finally reached her, and she's like, oh, we'll turn around and go back. But yeah, but he was already on his way, and
Yeah, we
that
had
was-
that, but we also had another one where we had a legitimate plumbing stoppage.
Oh, yeah, we've had a couple. We don't gotta
The
get into all
old
those,
pass
but
was
yeah.
like this,
That was funny
pipe,
also when it happened.
and it was maybe half an inch to an inch of space that was all left. It was the biggest clogged artery I've ever seen in my life. It was insane, but had to get a plumber in
But
to
yeah,
do that.
that's one of the few times I just thought it was silly. I was like, literally 2 days after closing, we're like, we don't have anything ready yet.
Yeah, what were you thinking? I mean, were you thinking, oh, did we make a bad decision, or were you thinking this just comes as par for the course? You know?
Yeah, I mean, since I've had rentals before, I knew things happen.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, that it was just funny that I was like, I was pretty quick after that to get things in place for that. Like we keep lock boxes for all 14 units hanging in the meter room downstairs with a spare key for everybody, so that if there's ever a lockout,
Yep.
they can go get their spare key. I'm not driving to Jackson to go and lock their door for them, for instance. But it also, that way, by having that, I could have reached the people who have been like, go get their key and get in there, go shut their water off. And, it would have been some more accessible. But so we've put things in place, obviously, to make it much easier. So, we don't have to do those emergency trips.
Yep.
So to make it easier to manage from afar, having hidden keys on site that you can access is good.
Yes.
Two local people, it sounds like, right? A
Yes.
handyman and
Yes.
Leslie, and then someone in the building. Anything else, like any neighbors, or do you? I don't know. What's code compliance like there with the city? Do they come in every year or
It's
every
every
couple
3
years?
years.
Okay.
And we're doing.
So for 14 unit, we're actually scheduled to do that soon. They charge approximately $3,400 for our inspection.
Wow.
Isn't that fun? For a 14
crazy.
unit. Yep. So, we did that once right after we bought it. So this will be our second one. So we're a little better prepared this time.
We're hoping for a better result last time because
We didn't know what to expect.
what it was interesting was, as we bought this building, we were told that this inspection
It had
had been
just
done
happened.
a year prior, and so we're like, oh, it should be pretty up to date.
No, they didn't complete it. That's why we had to get our own. If they had 7 items, they hadn't finished. And they weren't that big a deal, but they just never completed their last inspection. So when we bought it, they said if they would have completed it, we would have been good for 3 years. But because they didn't, we had to do our own inspection. So we're like, oh, no big deal. And it was just 7 items that were still needing to be done, right? No. This guy came up with over 100
Wow.
things, like, I mean, petty.
Yeah.
Like, we're just like, the list was pages and pages. And we're just like, you've got to be kidding me. What did they do with the inspection 6 months ago?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it makes no sense. So, that was a surprise for sure.
Yeah. that was a tough one for
Yeah,
sure.
another one, they uncapped the property taxes. I always try to warn people. It's like, they're never going to be what, they doubled. Yeah, so.
Wow.
And of course, if everybody knows too, probably insurance keeps going up. So.
Yep. So you walked into low rent, initial problems, expensive inspections, and since then you've remodeled most of them. You've boosted the rents. Is that still a good asset for you then?
Yes.
Is your plan to hold it long term or refinance, pull some money out? And
We actually just took, so we've had it for 3 years, and we increased the value enough that we were able to take a second loan out. I didn't want to touch the first one because it's at a really good interest rate, like in the 4%. So we were able to take a second loan out on the added equity. And
Do you want to go just through the numbers with them real quick?
I don't know how much time we have.
Well, just what we purchased it for and how much
I
is
don't
valued
mind.
at.
Yeah, so we bought it at $590,000. So we put around $150,000 down, and the increase, it was appraised earlier this year for $830,000. And so less what we obviously the first mortgage, so they were able to give us, I think, 70 or 75% of that. So anyways, we cashed out about $225,000.
Okay.
So we are taking that 225,000 and we are using that as a down payment to buy a 16 unit, hopefully next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was that the plan? Was that the plan all along? Is to pull some money out and buy another bigger building, or?
Well, I originally had thought that we couldn't touch any of the equity until the 5 years was up, because most loans you get are 20-year amortized, but a 5-year fixed.
Yeah.
And so that's why I didn't think we'd be able to do this for another 2 years. So, but I got in talking to the loan gentleman there, and I was like, any way to get the equity sooner?
Yeah.
And he worked his magic.
And
We were
we
able
did
to.
that on the second mortgage, correct?
Yeah, that's a second
Yeah,
mortgage
it's a
on
second.
the Jackson building. So there's still 25% equity in it, but we just pulled that money out. So we're going to use that to put the 25% down on the 16 unit. So we're essentially, and then we're getting the other 75% finance. So we'll get the new building, the 16 unit, basically 100% finance.
Okay.
Yep. And then in between that, a couple years ago, we purchased a 3-unit that was reg tagged property in Rio Town, Lansing.
Okay.
Yeah, all empty,
was
complete
our-
gut and rehab.
It was a complete gut and rehab, giant nightmare. That was
Well, it was what we
I think
expected.
nightmare in the sense it's like it was just
It wasn't
nasty.
a surprise. We
Yeah.
knew what we were getting into.
For sure. I think like the biggest win on that property, if I look at the whole property as a whole and say, what did we do here? It was our ability to do a project with none of our own money. We
How'd you fund that one? Yeah.
we borrowed the down payment from on that. I think 10% interest
Yeah, from my parents.
from her parents. They invested the down payment money. Obviously, we got the loan for the other. Was it 75%?
Yeah.
80%? Okay.
Was it a traditional bank loan or fix and flip
Yeah, we
loan?
just did a conventional loan in my dad's name, and then they put the money down. So their part, we did 50-50
Okay.
with that one. So
So we borrowed the down payment. We borrowed the money from the bank for that. We ended up opening a bunch of 0 interest credit cards
that's how we
for
did
like
the refinance.
18 months
the
or
rehab.
24 months or something like that in both of our names, which we used to purchase all the material.
Okay.
On it. We did have to dip a little bit into the 14 units profits to kind of pay some labor and things of that nature. We also borrowed the money for the whole roof to be redone.
Is that the
roof
one the
was
tree
shot.
fell on after?
Yes.
the
Yes,
Yes,
and
after
a
we
tree
fixed
fell
it.
on it.
Yep.
It was a blessing and a curse kind of all together. Had it fallen on the old roof, it probably
it
would have
would've
took the
killed
house
probably
down.
the tenants in there if they would.
But it was still sad to see when what did he say that was 5,500 pounds that tree
I
branch?
think it says around 6,000.
Yeah,
They
so
had to pull it off with a
the
crane.
house is very long. There's no space
3
between
stories
the
up.
houses, not for any crane to go through or
Yeah.
anything. The front of the property has power lines
Yeah, power
everywhere,
lines.
so they had to crane it all the way from the back. And since the house is so deep, it took a huge crane to pull off, and
Yeah.
I don't know, it cost
But the
$6,000.
insurance covered it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was $6,000.
That's
or
the only
something.
insurance claim I've ever made in my life.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But we were able. It took a year and a half. And the only reason it took that long was
To rehab.
to rehab and get all 3 units. We started with 1 unit till we rehabbed it all and were able to rent that. They took the red tag off of that, gave us an occupancy permit, and then
Did the next year.
also took the red tag off the others and put them
Yeah,
under
we're-
So
construction.
they released them one at a time?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
we weren't sure if they would, but yeah, they did. That
Cool.
was cool.
And so that first tenant was allow us, and now we're making a mortgage payment here on this property from the first tenant. And we did that at what, 800, 850 maybe? 850, 2-bedroom
But they
apartment.
pay 100% utilities. All the utilities in this.
Were they split like that before you bought it, or did you
Yes.
split them? Okay.
No, they're all
It's
split.
rare that
I
water
know.
is split too.
That's what we were
Water,
thinking.
sewers,
They
trash,
but-
gas,
and it's
electric.
sat empty for 2 years, but all 3 hot water heaters were still working.
And
Wow.
furnaces.
And he got all 3 furnaces working.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
well, you're the guy.
yes,
Yeah.
I know. And then, but there were leaky pipes all over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we
Lots
had
of
to
blown
fix
pipes.
a lot of plumbing leaks and stuff originally. But
Lots of fun turning on the water and being
running
like,
around
there's a
being
leak
like,
over
where's
here.
the water coming
You shut
from?
it off,
Cutting
you
holes
fix
in
the
the
leak, you
ceiling
turn
and
it
the
back
walls
on,
and-
and then there's a leak somewhere else.
I've
And
been there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so we borrowed all the money for everything. I guess what I felt like was the cool part of that story is basically a $65,000 investment. We had about 65,000 approximately into material, roof, all the stuff that we did to get it. We all 3 units are renting for around $2,700 a month, and So now it's become a net,
Cash flow. Yep.
cash flow for
And we
us.
were able to pull out the equity.
And then we were able to refinance the property on a DSCR loan. I think maybe you recommended. Was that a recommendation from David?
I think so.
Who'd you use?
Is it Jordan Brownlee?
Brownlee,
Yeah.
Modern
Yeah.
Mortgage. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, shout out to our
But
DSCR guy.
we bought it for $65,000 and it appraised for $255,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
So
did you pull money out too?
Yeah, we did
you
the
put money in it?
75% pullout. So we got a loan on it for $190,000, paid off everything we had put into it, cashed out approximately $50,000, which we're using some of that to put towards also getting the 16
closing the
unit.
16 unit.
Yeah.
Now with a partner on that one, did you cash out your partner? Now they're out of that deal, or do they still
No.
get half of? They get half of the 50 or half the cash flow, or how did
Yeah,
that
they
work?
just want to keep reinvesting. My parents really,
Okay.
they're kind of like the silent partners. They're like, we don't want any of the money.
They live down in
keep
Florida.
That's
you
great.
just
That's
keep
great.
using our money, and then maybe someday
A lot of our investors invest
Yeah.
over and over again too,
Yeah.
just because they set the money aside for an investment. It goes
Yeah.
well, and then why not just keep
Yeah.
it rolling?
I
So,
feel like them for part of that is at least the conversations I had with her dad was that it's about like some people get an inheritance later in life and then they just spend it on stuff. And his aspect is this is like we're kind of like throwing this towards you, and we'd rather see you guys take it and invest it and succeed with it than
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
buying
always
Corvettes.
said they
or
want to give their
stuff with
inheritance
it.
to all of us before they die.
yeah, I really appreciate that idea because oftentimes you get an inheritance or you hear people getting an inheritance and they're 60 because their parents were 80, and by 60,
You don't need it.
you don't need it. You know, when you need it is when you're up and coming or taking some of those risks, and an infusion from your family could really change the trajectory of the whole next generation.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
I
that you guys are able
will.
to do
I
that.
will say this though. Being that this is a podcast, and it is a blessing that her parents wanted to invest, $15,000 for a down payment, with interest. So, but there's other investors out there that are willing to do those kinds of things too. Like
Yeah.
if somebody doesn't have a mom or dad who's got 15 grand for a down payment, doesn't mean you should stop. You should come to real estate investor meetings. Like a lot of our knowledge and our confidence in this business has come by attending and being surrounded by mentors and all those kinds of things, which is like a huge part of it. I don't remember what it was, but even like a couple weeks back, you and I were talking, and you said, "Hey, I took a playbook out from you guys. I don't remember what it was,
Oh,
but
Troy
something
was
that we
telling
had
me
did."
Yeah.
You were getting that apartment building half full, and the lender didn't want to touch
Yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you're helping the sellers lease it up so that they'll
Yeah,
get
I
it.
got another tool that I learned from you guys. And what
Yeah.
if we take over management before we close or something like that to make it work for them and for us? So yeah.
Yeah, so that's the benefit of it is coming in and hearing you
Other people's
express your
stories, yeah.
story and saying, "Man, that's something I never thought about." And then likewise, we come in and we don't, you start going through and realize you're doing things and you don't even feel overly confident with yourself as an investor. Like, hey, I've made it to the mountaintop, but you realize you do have a lot of wins if you're willing to talk about and share them that other people can learn from.
Yeah.
Like how not to do a 1031 and fail at it, those kinds of things. But I would definitely say in the 1031, go locate 3 properties and put them under contract, and then list your house for sale. Make sure you list it competitively so you know that
Or at least postpone the closing if you
yeah, push back the closings or whatever, but try to list your property and try to get it moved along quickly so that you can do a better job at closing on one of those. So as if
You've
things were
probably
working
done a
out.
couple if you had success.
Yeah, we've done a few. They add an extra level of stress because everybody needs to sign off that it's a 1031 too, the seller and the buyer, and so it's they kind of feel like they got you, sometimes because last minute they can say, well, we want to renegotiate, and they know that your time frame's going to expire, but they have to sign off on it. So it's best, in my experience, just to tell everyone up front that this is what you're doing. But if you can lock up the more expensive one first and say, I'm going to sell a few properties to come up with a down payment, but you're under contract, then now you're kind of in a better position. And then also, likewise, you should have all of the properties you're going to sell kind of prepped and ready. Because I run into that with clients all the time when they say, hey, I found a house I want to buy, but I have to sell mine first.
It's not ready.
But it's not ready. Well, it needs a roof, and I was meaning to do this last summer, and it's
goodness.
like, well, now you're in
You
trouble.
don't have the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's timing, big time. Timing.
Yeah. We have next to what's the townhomes next to our house?
Sycamore Townhomes.
Sycamore Townhomes. So I think it's roughly 340 units. something like that. So it's right in the
I know.
neighborhood that we live in, and they're, for those that don't know, it's like completely boarded up.
Yeah.
And the number one reason I wanted to do this podcast is kind of like I told you, I'm like, I want to share my story. I feel like God's kind of calling me to do that.
Yeah.
Is that like we look in our own neighborhood and we see, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, a slumlord that didn't care about his tenants, doesn't care about his property, buy this thing up, milk every dollar he could out of it, and have the entire place get red tagged up, boarded up. You know,
It was beautiful when I first
people
moved
that
there.
were tenants turned to squatters because they had no place to go and nothing was getting fixed. Leaks were coming in, toilets not getting fixed. I mean, horror stories of people just going down and using the basement for their bathroom. You know what I mean? And a lot of that stuff going on. So we had in the 14 unit, I don't know, about a year and a half ago, where we had a major sewage backup. I just felt like it smelled a little funny in the basement, and so we have how the basement's kind of laid out. There's like a garage, a laundry room, some storage areas, a meter room, a couple apartments, but in the middle, even down lower, is the boiler room. And so I'm just like, I'm going to check on the boiler room. I like to try to make a habit of it when I go for anything, just to peek my head in there and make sure everything looks all right, you know. And I opened it up and I was like, oh my goodness. And I looked in there and it was up to the third step in raw sewage.
Oh, wow.
Thankfully, our boilers are up on blocks.
How many steps down was it?
Three steps up from the bottom. So total steps, I think it's maybe 6 or 7 steps down.
Okay.
I don't know, but
So
it was probably above, you know, around knee height,
Wow.
roughly, and it's just full of sewage. And their boilers are up on platforms that are up on bricks, so it was like right up to the bottom of them.
It
and-
took the hot water heater light out. I think that's how we.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my goodness. So we obviously called a drain cleaning company, and they came out, snaked the main drain. So what happened, there's a big floor drain in that room, and so as it all was backing up down the main out to the street, it was flooding up through that floor drain. Okay. And so that's how come it got so bad in there. And I remember not being overly positive with it. I told Johnny that I'm going to have to go to the store. I got to get some hoses and some sprayers and bleach and scrub brushes and all this kind of stuff and get to town and clean it up. Because even after they got it down, everything was completely black.
Yeah.
You know, and so it needed to be cleaned, scrubbed, you know what I mean? I don't want to get anybody sick in there. So, and I worked through half the night working on that first time. And it was not my favorite thing to do by any means. But we got through it. It was fine. And then I want to tell you, was it 2 months later it happened again? It was a very short period of time. It happened again. And so one of the most impactful moments of that story was the second time it happened. So back at the building, we didn't get any calls on it or anything. I just happened to open the door.
The hot water heater was going out.
Or maybe it was that the second time the hot water heater. Okay. So went in, checked on it, same thing. It's backed up, it's full in there again. I'm like, no freaking way. So we called the same guys, but this time it was not just snake it. Let's run the camera down and see what's going on. And because it's old, it's got the clay tiles, and they're kind of up and down, you know, as they're sending the little rover down through there and camera to check it out. It's not a nice, good slope all the way down. And you know, we went through the whole thing, but the same, once we got done, I'm like, it looks like it's really cleared out now. They gave us some options to help us snake it better in the future and talked about maintenance snaking and stuff like that. But
Never happened again.
it hasn't happened again, thank God. But
They don't know why it happened that second time, to be honest. They couldn't
just-
find anything.
there's nothing like major with it, but it's just
old,
this,
probably.
just who knows, the
We
toilet
just have a
paper
few
stuff.
minutes
But
left.
yeah, I know. So anyway, I'm down there, and I can tell you full honesty, I was in a really bad mood.
Yeah.
Because this just happened to me once. And so I'm having these private conversation with God. Like, why are you doing this, right? We're working hard. We're trying to provide a good place for all these families. And like, where you at, Jesus, right? So kind of having one of those, like, back and forth with it. And then I remember God just kind of speaking right to my heart and telling me, like, Nate, I put you in charge of stewarding 14 families. If you don't do it, who's going to do it? right? So that kind of changed my whole heart right then. Like, this business is God's business. We're just the stewards of that, and our job is to steward all these families and all these properties. I tell you that story, and I connect that to the Sycamore townhomes because I want to inspire other investors that are out here to push so that it's not just a service that we can do; it's almost a requirement that we should. If we're not out here making these investments to be good moral providers and treat our tenants with respect and love and dignity and all these kinds of things, and provide a safe and clean environment that we care about for these tenants, then some slumlord is.
Yeah.
And it's either them or us. And so I want to see more people take their faith into the business and provide for homes and be good landlords for these people. So, and if anything, it's like kind of you change your community one deal at a time. But I'd like to have that so that we can have a reputation to change rules and laws in our own city because we care about our tenants and because we don't really allow a bunch of slumlords to come in here and steal up our properties and mistreat the community and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's the big part is I want people to kind of know that story and trust in God with that decision. We pray about the tenants that we get, and we've had the great luck with our tenants, and because of that, and I love what I do now, especially now that I know I'm just here to serve.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. It's great to make money with real estate, but it's a people business. You know, it's not just about the spreadsheets and numbers and the bricks and the mortar. There's people inside. It's good to remember that. But so I'm anxious to hear about your 16 unit, but maybe we can do a part 2 of this once you get it and that gets stabilized in a few months from now, because you're closing soon. You know, a few months from now we can sit down and see what went different with the one than the other and kind of hear a progress update if you're up for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah, we've got some really good ideas. We're hoping to try furnishing some of the units and do the short-term, midterm, and try our hand at that too. And
Yeah.
this one just needs, again, some TLC. It's been neglected, some landscaping, fresh paint, just kind of just a nice facelift on everything.
Super
And
close to home.
Yeah.
Couple
Well,
minutes from our house.
Yeah, get some before and after pictures, and we can
Oh, for
post those
sure.
next time too.
Okay.
But, so in closing, is there what's the best way for people to get in contact with you? Because you do HVAC, you're licensed for HVAC, so I'm sure there's people watching that need that. And then also, if they have questions or want to hear more about something that you said, what's the best way for people to reach out?
For HVAC business, it's furnaceacinstall.com, or you can reach me at Furnace AC Direct on Facebook. And my phone number for that is 989-307-3500. So, yeah, I can help with HVAC needs of other people's properties if they need it, bids on furnaces, air conditionings, or just solving problems or getting inspections done. There, we don't really have a perennial properties business contact
but I'm an
info.
agent with David, so
Yeah,
you can get a hold of me through Achieve Real Estate.
I would say if you want to talk, come to Lansing Real Estate Investors Group and let's build
the first Thursday of every month.
let's build a relationship so that we can bounce ideas off and we can help whoever succeed and they can help us succeed. It's like a team effort. There is nothing satisfying about success if you're not bringing people with you.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on.
well, thank you for having us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. We're good. I know you got to go right at 3. It's 3:01. So.
Okay, perfect.
You guys could have kept going for 3 more hours.
Yeah.
I was locked into that.
I know. Favorite thing to talk about, huh? For all of us, probably.
Super fun.
Yeah, time flies.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, so how is the fallout on the 33 unit? Is that going okay?
Yeah, no, it's going